You said that you're taking common spaces and you're turning it into a bedroom. So are you like turning a living room into a bedroom?
It used to be no common space. Monetize everything.
That's crazy.
As long as I can match the expectation of the person renting the room with the room that they get, we're always going to win.
Imagine if you could take a single rental and turn it into 8. Yeah, 8. Well, that is really the premise of the co-living rental strategy. Taking a single family residence, or really just any residence, and converting all of those unused spaces and nooks and crannies into livable bedrooms that working professionals will rent from you a week at a time. I love this strategy because oftentimes whenever we're looking for deals, we immediately will toss them into the trash can if they don't pencil out. But the cool thing is that the co-living strategy can bring back these dead short-term rental and long-term rental deals back to life, so long as you're willing to pivot. As a matter of fact, if you've been following the channel, you know that I've got this hoarder house flip that's been a nightmare in my life for over a year now because it was a dog deal. And I'm currently working on pivoting from flipping it into turning it into a pad split, which, by the way, in case you didn't know, is the largest co-living platform out there. So today I'm going to be sitting down with Quinton, who actually works at Pad Split, to break down this strategy even further. I'm a big fan of this strategy. It's going to be a big play for me in 2025. And if you're interested in trying out this strategy and becoming a Pad Split host, you can sign up for the platform using my link in the description down below. And by the way, speaking of links, this is not a sponsored video. It's going to seem that way because Quinton is literally wearing a Pad Split polo in the interview, but there's a reason for that. And it's because when I was at a conference a couple months ago, a podcast guest canceled on me, David Green. And then I saw Quinton at the Pad Split booth and I ran up to him. I said, "Do you want to be on my podcast? You have 3 seconds to decide." And then this happened.
So I'm hearing all the rage right now for co-living, and this seems to be a strategy that is very auxiliary, surround sound to short-term rentals. Yeah. For anyone at home that doesn't know what co-living is, break that down. What is it? What's all the rage here? Pad Split seems to be something that's popping up in a lot of the Airbnb conversations that are happening around the world.
Yeah, so Pad Split is a digital platform. We're a two-sided marketplace, very similar to Airbnb by design in the sense that we're an OTA, but we also, the platform allows for rooms to be listed. Co-living is taking a single family rental and getting rid of the common space areas or converting those common space areas into bedrooms. And the commodity that we trade in is bedrooms. So our platform rents out single room occupancy or co-living, where we rent individual bedrooms, fully furnished, all utilities included, one set price. And that's what our renters or tenants or members that we call them, when they come to our platform, they're looking at location and price and quality of pictures. And that's how they book rooms on our platform. The individual investor, instead of a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, you have a 6-bedroom, 2-bath, or a 7-bedroom, 3-bath.
That's crazy.
Right?
That's so much. Okay, break this down. You said that you're taking common spaces and you're turning it into a bedroom. So are you like turning a living room into a bedroom?
In most cases, yeah. I think that we're evolving as well. Like, we take so many learnings from the guys like yourself that are hospitality based, and now we're incorporating that into our world where it used to be no common space. Monetize everything. And what we're learning is the hospitality piece of it. You can have 11 bedrooms if you really wanted to squeeze, but the ones that are killing it are 6 to 8 bedrooms where they have a common space area, maybe a living room or a den, but typically you're only sharing the kitchen, the dining area, and laundry areas. But everybody else has their own individual bedrooms that they rent.
Okay, so typically you don't see a lot of 6-bedroom, 8-bedroom homes.
No.
So what is the acquisition strategy? How do you find these properties?
So the best place to start would be if you're a flipper. The way they acquire properties with the same idea of reverse engineering, I have to get out of this property as an exit. So think about market rate rent. Think about how to put long-term financing on it. Think about how you want to exit financially is the best way to start. So most people buy a distressed single family, B neighborhood, B minus neighborhood. The renovation that they would normally put in to do a flip, they just reroute those dollars to accommodate for walls and furniture, and keeping in mind that they have to get the appraisal for their long-term financing. And then once they have it fully refurnished and renovated, then they're renting out fully furnished rooms. And then this is where you guys come in, like the hospitality view of like photos make a difference. Like I can't tell you how many times I'm arguing with folks that a professional photographer is worth its weight in gold versus your Apple phone. So that's where we're at. Is we're Airbnb 11 years ago, and people forgot all the learnings that they had from Airbnb.
I guess I have such a mental barrier here to this strategy because it's hard for me to imagine that you find this house that is distressed, or even if it's not, you can just find a house on the MLS, right?
You could.
Okay, and then you add walls, and if there's like a dining room, you
put in a temporary wall.
Yeah. What makes it temporary?
It's removable. It's not structural.
Oh, okay. So it's like you frame out with 2x4s a wall, drywall it.
Yep.
And then does that mean because it's temporary, if you ever want to sell the house, it's like really easy to take out?
So 2 forms of exiting that we see really popular. One is that you're going to sell me your existing pad split as an operating business. So now we're talking cap rate.
Really? There's a cap rate assigned to like a single pad split?
Essentially because I'm buying cash flow, right? So if I'm a 1031 investor and I want to buy immediate cash flow from you and you want to exit this property, sell it to me. Or you could sell it on the open market. There's people that love 5-6 bedroom houses because they have a lot of kids. Or if you want to go worst case scenarios, you can remove the temporary walls for $2,500
and make it like a normal house
regular
again.
House. Yeah.
So, but like, does it not become a problem if you have no dining room? You said that the living room you're taking out in a lot of cases too, right?
Yeah, we'll just put in walls to enclose it.
And people, I mean, would it not be the case that when you sell that on
1950s houses before the open floor concepts happened?
Yeah.
It's just a door.
Okay.
That's the easiest way to describe it is that, when I walk houses with appraisers and they're, senior, I'm like, what was this 1950? Well, it was a living room with a door.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the same thing it is here.
By the way, for anyone listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube, I've been super fascinated by the pad split strategy. This video is not brought to you by Padsplit. This is not something that they paid for. Literally, I'm at BPCon right now. I saw Quinton, who's very smart in this specific niche, at his booth. I said, dude, can I pluck you for an interview? But if you'd like to sign up for Padsplit and you're interested in this strategy, there will be a link down below in the description for you, and they'll get something cool and special.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, cool, awesome. So let's dive back into it. All right, so the idea here is you take a house, you convert it into a mega bedroom house.
Yep.
And then what?
You run it like a business. And I think that's the beauty of what we're learning is that the Airbnb folks that you speak to, like your audience here, they make amazing pad split hosts because they lead with hospitality. And we're a young marketplace. I was saying it earlier, like we're essentially Airbnb 10, 11 years ago in terms of a marketplace size. But unlike Airbnb where it's a want business, we service a need-based business. So I think people making less than $80,000 a year, it's really hard for them to find affordable places to live. So we compare it against single-family apartments, or one apartments. That's $2,000, $1,800 in many markets.
Which is a huge chunk of your $80,000 salary.
Massive. So you go from 60 to 70% take-home pay going to housing. In our world, it's 40%. So it's back to reasonable numbers. If you're a young professional, or you're just a professional that has a job but can't find affordable housing close to where you want to work, we all of a sudden become a useful, option for you.
There's construction happening out here. Sorry for everyone at home. So let me ask you this: is the idea that there are these professionals that maybe make $60,000, $80,000, $100,000? How bad is that? How are the lines on our?
It's very apparent that it's happening.
Keep it in.
It's Mexican moose mating season.
We're in Mexico, by the way, for
It's
anyone
amazing.
at home. What?
It's a whale call. Just go with it.
What would we say is happening? Is that happening next door?
It's got to be on the roof.
So I'm going to take this opportunity. The moose has stopped their
The whale mating season has stopped.
So in theory, conceptually, I can grasp this idea, and I wonder if this is really the case. There are people that make 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100K.
Yep.
Even on the 100K side, that literally don't care about where they live. They just want to save money. If you make 100K and you're like, dang, I have to spend $2,000 a month on rent, that's crazy. But then there's this pad split option that is like what, 700, 800, 900, somewhere
to
there?
$1,000 a
Okay.
month.
And so for them, they're like, I literally do not give a crap that I'm living in a house with other people. I just care that I can sleep and save money. Is that kind of the main use case?
Worst case scenario, if you
Okay.
think about it that way. Best case scenario was, which I think is going to be, if you looked at my model, thought of it more like Uber. So now you have Uber Basic, and then you're going to have your Core, and then you're going to have Uber Black. And then as long as I can match the expectation of the person renting the room with the room that they get, we're always going to win, right? So we can stratify. At some point, we're going to end up having different levels where expectations are met. And that's a win, right? But that same person, the economics just work. If I need to be close to work, I make $60,000 to $70,000 a year, and I can pay $800 a month. The math is always in our favor. The winning part happens when folks like us, the hosts, that start helping to build communities inside the house where people are sticky, they want to be there, the community is like working for them, and they don't feel so lonely. Those hosts have 2-year tenure. And that's where you crush, is that you have consistent revenue from hosts from members that want to be in the house. That's when like everything's clicking the way it's supposed to be.
Sure. Okay. So, and they're back. They're like mining for gold over there.
So let's do this. Ask me the questions that you're afraid of, and let me help you get over and overcome your concerns about co-living.
Well, first I want to jump into the economics of co-living and help me understand why someone would do this over Airbnb. What is the actual like monetary structure? How do you make money as a pad split host?
Yeah. So it's no different than the regular Airbnb model, right? If you thought about just the sheer dollars, it's you're just collecting 7 rents instead of 1. So it compared us more to long-term rentals and midterm rentals. That's where we're finding a lot of success is if you have an Airbnb property that is really low occupancy. It's not on it's not in a small tiny house. It's not in the Smokies, but you have a property that's fully furnished and it's underperforming. We may be a great alternative for you. If you're doing midterm, same thing, and you're not finding contracts with insurance companies or traveling nurses, we may be a great alternative for you because our revenue is way more consistent because the workforce demand hasn't gone anywhere, and it's not going to go anywhere because the cost of living continues to rise, but average wages aren't keeping up.
So let me ask you this. Is a pad split considered a short-term rental? Like
No.
from a jurisdiction standpoint?
It's midterm rentals.
Even though it's like 1 week at a time?
Yep, so our base lease is always 30 days minimum, so it helps us overcome the short-term lease.
Okay, so no one can ever just come in and book for a week?
No.
Got it.
No. So it's designed around a lot of the legalities that we have to work around. So we avoid short-term regulations because it's 31 days or 30 days minimum lease, renewable week over week. Average tenure for us is 9 months. So most people stay, 6 to a year, because once they're in the room and the host is doing his job and the property manager is doing their job, you get great value.
Got it. Okay, so break down sort of a typical house, like bedrooms, what a host might make, and sort of like some of the, maybe not returns, but like, give me like a very average deal so that someone at home can understand, hey, if I want to do this, here's kind of what it would look like.
Yep. So I'll just walk through some individual properties. The acquisition, just like in any real estate, everything's done on the acquisition, right? You make all your money in the acquisition. So normally, though, our investors will acquire a house in Atlanta. It's just under $200,000 for the distressed property. You're going to put $50,000 to $60,000 renovation, and then you're going to hopefully get an appraisal. I'll talk about my house. 183 acquisition, 65 renovation, 330 ARV. So then I took a 75% DSCR loan, was 247 was the loan, and essentially I took all my money back out minus like $7,000. I'm making for 7 bedrooms roughly $210, $200 a week. So, you know,
1,400 a week.
Yep,
Okay.
times 4.33.
2,800 every 2 weeks, 5,400.
Yep, versus my average what I could have rented it for, which is 1,800.
Oh, on a long-term rental.
Right, so 1,800 long-term rental, losing a couple $100 a month, $5,400, you know, fully occupied, and then I take out 8% for Padsplit's platform fee.
Okay, and Airbnb is 3%, so Padsplit is 8% on
Yep.
the.
So
okay.
platform fee is 8%, but that handles filling the rooms, collections, and all the comms on the platform.
What do guests pay?
Guests just pay the one flat rate.
Oh, okay. So they don't have like the crazy, because like Airbnb guests.
No,
have
there's
to pay
no,
12%.
there's no, you know, plus or minus. Show me all of the fees. It doesn't. We don't do that.
Oh, okay.
It is one listed fee, and that to them, what they're booking is one room, a bedroom, shared house, fully furnished, all utilities included.
Okay, so you're making 5,400 as a Padsplit. I imagine, would an Airbnb bring in similar income? Would it, for
It
this,
would.
Yeah.
I think Airbnb would be similar, if not more, if done correctly. But then the asset, the actual house, would be not a good Airbnb, right? Like I'd have to increase what I'm laying out for an Airbnb significantly, right? To compete and to get the same amount of dollars. I believe that I would have to pay more for.
Yeah, you'd have to pay your cleaning fees and your operational expenses
Yeah.
that fluctuate every single month. So while your Airbnb may, in this instance, bring in the same cash flow, it wouldn't, or the same revenue, it probably wouldn't cash flow as well. It seems like you have better margins.
I get better margins that way. I think depending upon location, if my house was on the lakefront, my margins would be amazing because I would just charge so much more.
As an Airbnb or as
As an Airbnb. So in my world, if you're an Airbnb host, you can add to your portfolio with some cash flowing pad splits. Instead of it being so high maintenance, we're a little bit lower maintenance. It's the most beautiful thing when I talk to Airbnb hosts. I'm less maintenance than you. When I talk to long-term hosts, they're like, what? You're so much more maintenance than me. So it just
So it
depends.
really is like a midterm rental.
It is. It's totally a midterm rental.
Would you say you're going head to head against midterm rentals, or are you just a straight up midterm rental?
I think we're just a different flavor in midterm rentals because midterm rentals bucket would cover traveling nurses, insurance claims, 6 to 9 month contracts. Whereas for us, we deal more with the individual.
What's your spread on 5,400 in this instance? Like, what's your actual cash flow?
$2,200 a month.
Wow. So you'll make $2,200
After
your expenses and fees and everything. Whereas in a long-term rental, if you're charging $1,800,
I'd be losing $200 to $300 a month.
wow. Okay, cool. So that 5,400, you have 3,000, 3,200 in expenses. You're bringing home 2,200.
Yeah. So that's 100% occupied, and
And
that's on me.
by the way, $2,000 on an Airbnb every month is great.
Is it really?
It's really good. Yeah.
That's so strange because I'm so skewed in what I think you guys are making.
Everyone is.
Literally, like
well, I mean, some properties.
I've got Airbnb Lambo ideas.
No. There are some Airbnbs that for sure you can make 5,000. I mean, I've got them right. Like some make 5,000, some can make 10. Yeah. But really, the vast majority of Airbnbs in America probably make between $500 to $1,500 a month.
That is wild. I never knew that.
Yeah. For average like $200,000 to $300,000, $400,000.
It's interesting you said. In my world, we're targeting minimum $1,000 a month net. So you're clearing $1,000. It should be what a well acquired, properly acquired, properly appointed pad split run really well. And just like in Airbnb, you make your money in my world on how you property manage and host the members in the house.
Yeah, so let's talk about that part, because I think that's the part that probably scares me, scares most people in this industry, which is like, okay, I've got this property, I've just stuck all the walls in there, I have an 8-bedroom, 2-bath, or are you trying to get more baths? Or does it matter?
Mine's at 8.3.
Okay, so you have an 8.3, you've got all these bedrooms, that means you've got 8 tenants, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. So I guess I would expect that I'd want to make more money if I'm managing 8 people. Are you dealing with, because usually with the Airbnb, you're dealing with 5 to 7 stays per month, so 5 to 7 sets of guests, but they're all individual. Right. In this instance, you're dealing with 8 guests at the same time.
Yep.
What's that situation
in
like?
your world, you segment time. So you take 2-day blocks, 3-day blocks, 5-day blocks. In our world, we're more like Uber. I monetize space. So on an 8-bedroom house, 6 may be there for 7 months, and 2 rooms may turn once every quarter. So the maintenance of it are really simple things. We clean our houses twice a month, common spaces only. So that is kitchens, laundry areas, and bathrooms. Bathrooms are really important to clean. Like when you have shared bathrooms, people don't really clean.
People don't scrub those toilets.
Not so much. That's not really their bag,
They leave you a little surprise in there.
Right. So you go ahead and make sure that you just outsource that, build that into your cost, and you'd be so amazed at how much it's appreciated, right? Because people are sharing it. You just want to keep it well maintained.
And how much would you say on your 8-bedroom do you pay in cleaning costs every month?
$85 a clean.
And you do that two
Twice a
times?
month.
Wow, so $160. And that's really, I think, the big difference, because with Airbnb, 5 to 7 sets of guests, $200 a stay, right? You're spending between $1,000 to $1,400 a month in cleaning.
Yeah.
Which is really, that's the one that surprises most hosts when they don't account for cleaning fees properly. And then if I said that, you're gonna make $1,000 a month, right? But you didn't account for the cleaning being $1,000 a month, people are like, oh, it's a pass-through, but it's still something that you have to pay out. And that's where a lot of hosts find themselves in trouble. So in your instance, you're only paying $200, we'll call it, maybe $250 in cleaning.
Yep.
Wow.
And the reason why it's super important for us to clean, just same as you, right? Your first impression is the best impression. I don't know on what day the move-in's going to happen to room 6. So that person, if I were to clean once a month, right?
Yeah.
And it was on the first day of the month, and this guy moved in the 29th day of the month, the house looks like a mess. So then I get the feedback like, hey, I'm not moving in here. The house is so dirty. So that's what pivoted toward, let's clean it twice a month. And then part of our instructions to the move-in is, just so you know, the house is cleaned twice a month on this day and this day. So if you happen to move in the day before the cleaning happens, know that it's going to get cleaned tomorrow. And this is the learnings that I get from Airbnb hosts that come to our platform. They over-communicate. And we've never done that before, right? So these learnings, the best practices that keep coming into our world, it just really calls out the fact that we're a hospitality business and we can get so much better. So that's what I was telling you earlier. Airbnb hosts that are coming to our platform,
Crushing it. It's probably easier, is my guess.
Killing it.
So, wow, so you're cleaning it twice a month. And then is there sort of an expectation, when you have a guest, you're like, hey, by the way, if you poo-poo in the toilet and you're leaving a little surprise there, go scrub your own stuff?
The more you talk to them and set expectations early, the more humans actually want to follow those expectations. So they clean their own room.
I get that, but are people ever kind of like, I pay a cleaning fee?
Yeah.
I don't deserve. I'm entitled. I don't want to. I don't want to have to clean. Yeah, do people? Some. Yeah.
We get some.
So you still have your rowdy guests. Yes. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So it's not all beautiful necessarily, but it seems
from
like
A's to A-holes. Full
nice.
range.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna use that. All right. So cleaning fee management. Let's talk about acquiring the booking. Yeah. Obviously, with Airbnb, you have to list on Airbnb. You're kind of feeding the beast and kissing the ring of the beast, right? We're beholden to Airbnb. Padsplit is obviously the same thing. You list on Padsplit, and then is there an algorithm that you have to abide by to pop up at the top?
So for us, we primarily look at we call it bookability. And I was telling Rob earlier, at HostCon, I loved when you guys were analyzing listings. I brought it back to our platform because they don't, the hosts spend so much time buying the property, renovating the property, and then activating it with very little intention about running the business. So we have this conversation about we're the Tinder of real estate at this point. Your picture versus the expectation, this is what's causing people to book or not book. And so teaching them about professional photos, your listing descriptions, your move-in instructions. These are all translatable things from short-term rental hosts that they're changing the way we do things because they're bringing such good ideas in. I have a guy who has videos. He's an Airbnb host. He's like, people don't read. So he goes, I make videos for everything. Mind-boggling. But that's such a great practice for people that want to move in. They're 25 to 45, 55 years old. They want to watch short little videos on how do the locks work.
So it's a pretty kind of similar thing. You make a listing, you take pro photos, you fill out your copy,
Yeah.
you have nice furniture. Is there an actual algorithmic component? Like, are there things you can do to place higher on
There
the
is.
Padsplit algorithm?
So there's algorithms on analysis of your pricing compared to market rate pricing. We have a really hard time booking edge cases. So if the average market rate in Atlanta is 183, right? That's the average price per week. The rooms that are 300 take longer to book. The rooms that are 159, they'll book really fast. So for you to find a sweet spot in terms of getting the value you need for your underwriting, that's why acquiring is super important.
Now, in that instance with the $300 example, in that market where the 183 is the average, is it possible to book up very quickly on the 300 end side if you are amenity driven, or if you have particularly nice design, or if you have like a pool? Like, is it the same thing as Airbnb, or
Sort
do
of.
people always want the cheap thing?
No, it's interesting. So in our world, private bathrooms are a commodity. So those book the fastest. So the pricing is according. So average market rate rent in Atlanta for a private ensuite bathroom, like a master suite with a bathroom, is $255. But the ones that are in nicer areas, not in a B minus area with a private bath, but in an A minus or B plus neighborhood, they'll book for $350. And they book really quickly because that person is getting what they seek. They want location and they want price. And somewhere in there, there's an interpretation of value. So if they're paying $300 a week, that's $1,200 a month. They're probably gonna have to pay $2,800 to live in that same area if they were to get a 1-1 studio. So the value discrepancy is enough that they're gonna book it.
So you mentioned that you could sell this on a cap rate as a business, one single property. Have you seen people actually sell it on a cap rate?
Yeah, people sell it for the cash flow if they want to exit. Reason being, we have a lot of investors that are coming in with 1031s, and they just want to deploy capital. And they want to get into the cash flow instead of having to wait 100 days to renovate a property.
Got it. And so are there actually, I know a lot of people are kind of converting Airbnb's pace.
Yeah.
He had 80 Airbnbs. He said he's converting them all to short-term rentals.
Midterm rentals, yeah.
Or, pad splits or co-living. What are the chances that all 80 of those properties that he has actually work as a co-living? Like, it's not like every Airbnb can automatically be transferred, right?
It's just like you guys, right? Location matters for us. And then the location with the idea of the operating business is even more important. You can have the greatest house in the world, but if there's no parking, how are you going to fit 8 people in there? Right? 8 people have to go to work. So unless you're on a high-speed, public transportation line, the neighbors are going to complain if you have a whole ton of cars parked all over the place. So you have to understand, is the property a good fit for this business strategy? And then the ones that are, you're going to thrive. And the ones that aren't, if you're trying to shove a square peg into a circular hole with hopes of making, Lambo money, not the right place to go, because your neighbors are going to complain.
That's what I was going to say. If you have 8 cars...
It's a mess.
Okay.
It's a mess. But if you're in a high-rent neighborhood and everybody's got 4 or 5, 6 cars parked in, especially Florida. You've seen the Florida rentals? Animals down there. They park all over the lawn. It's craziness down there, but it's normal.
Like, how can any normal house even fit 8 cars, though? Do you just have to get rid of the front yard?
On the street, right?
Okay.
I saw a guy that he repaved over his front lawn, caused a huge kerfuffle with the neighborhood, and the city made him shut his pad split down. Yeah, he deserved it. That was a terrible
Okay, so that's
decision.
that's not a good move.
That was terrible. That's
Okay.
terrible. No.
How often do neighbors really kind of pitch a fit?
If you're a bad operator, expect it. If you're a bad long-term operator, you didn't cut the grass, you're going to get a code citation. We have the same problems with a host that doesn't want to cut the grass. They've got 7 people in the house. Be a good landlord. Be a good operator, right? It reduces the Karens of the world that are going to complain. It reduces all of this other friction that you're going to deal with. And listen to the best practices that 500 other hosts, we got 15,000 doors that are working.
Yeah.
Just don't ignore the best practices.
Now, what about running comps? I know I'm jumping around, but I know these are all the things that hosts on the Airbnb side have to be asking. I'm checking boxes here.
Talk to me about comps. Comps, for how I underwrite the room?
Yeah.
Or comps for how I underwrite the house?
No, comps for like how you can actually analyze a deal to make sure it's going to cash flow. Because hosts have a ton of tools, right? AirDNA, MashVisor, Rabu.
So for us, our data, we have more data on co-living than any other platform in the country. We're the largest one. So 15,000 doors of historical data across 20 markets. It's essentially our Padsplit DNA data. So before you buy, please go talk with your sales rep, go talk with our account executives. They'll tell you exactly what the historical rates are in the zip code that you're looking. So if you have properties that you want to analyze, they'll walk you through how to price the room, how to underwrite it correctly, so that when you buy, and convert, the numbers are actually proving true. There's nothing worse in the world than, Rob, if you come to me and say, I need 6 out of my 7 rooms to break even. That's not a platform problem. That was a real estate acquisition problem.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Airbnb
Exactly.
too. Hey Rob, look at this. I'm like, why did you pick this? Oh, I just like the area. And I'm like, you didn't run comps?
Exactly.
You can't save a bad buy.
So a lot of the same structure that you talk about, we've mirrored, we've copied, right? It's like you need comp data in order to buy right. You need to know, hey, what are the amenities in here so that I can price, because I have 159 rooms and I've got 309 rooms. So however you want to compete, you better compete.
Yeah.
Don't put 6-inch mattresses and terrible, amenities in there when you're competing with somebody who's got a mini fridge and, a full bed with a headboard and, it looks better. You can't complain that your room's not booking if you're the ugliest person on the block.
Yeah,
it's a competitive marketplace.
And what are your thoughts on saturation? Like that's always the big thing for Airbnb hosts. Like, oh, it's oversaturated. Do you feel like Padsplit is too new to even have that conversation, or are you starting to see some saturation in some of the markets that you're in?
What people are calling saturation, I think, is a lazy cop-out. I have some hosts that are claiming saturation in a market that we have 1,000 doors. Atlanta's always been 3 years ahead of everybody else. I have 6,300 doors in Atlanta. I'm rocking a 91% occupancy rate. I just ran a report. By 90 days, pretty much 88% of every door that listed in the last 90 days, over 88% occupied. Our new stuff, our new hosts, killing it. Where I'm having occupancy is my 4-year-old stuff. Like, there's a fear of catfishing, right? This picture, you take a picture of me 4 years ago. I'm much more handsome 4 years ago. Imagine me booking a room and moving in, and that's what I have. So that's where I have like less occupancy, is the host that didn't want to maintain the asset, but they still want today's market rates. That causes a problem. So it's a matter of like, keep your asset competitive with the marketplace so that you can take advantage of inflationary, rent increases.
Okay, final question, because I know that this is probably like got the wheels turning for a lot of people at home. If they're like, hey, I want to get into the Padsplit game.
Yep.
Reminder, you can use my link down below to sign up. We'll give you something
link.
special. What are some markets that they can invest in right now that's like, hey, these are the low-hanging fruit markets. If you analyze correctly, you'll have success here.
It depends on what your investment thesis is. If you want appreciation and cash flow, our model drives on cash flow. So that's like the baseline. But if you want appreciation in there, I would look at markets like Phoenix, Vegas, and Dallas. There's still some appreciation going on for B-class neighborhoods that you're buying. If you want consistency in revenue, I always look at Atlanta and I always look at Florida. The Florida problem is your revenue's consistent, your net cash flow is going to be lower because the insurance is so high. So understanding that every market has their own little dynamic. I'm a huge fan of Atlanta. I love the fact that I have 5 years of historical data, and we continue to see really consistent returns. So take a look at our map online and you'll see all the markets that we're available in. Every investor has their own thesis that they want to try, but we have enough markets where you can check off appreciation, cash flow, and consistency. If you have properties, if you're a long-term portfolio owner and you want to convert the worst performing bottom third, you could do it in any market. We have houses in Rochester, New York, and California. It still works.
We're going to make a part 2 on this. I think that there's just so much territory to uncover. So when that part 2 happens, you can click right here to watch it. Otherwise, This video, for the moment, will lead you to a video that will teach you how I analyze markets for short-term rentals. So go click that right here. Oh, and hit like and subscribe too if you like this video, which I know you did, okay?